Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Today is a very special session. We normally have one-on-one discussions with experts in the AI field, but today it's a group discussion, and it's a follow-on from an earlier episode with Ash Ashutosh from Pinecone, the CEO of Pinecone. So had a great discussion. I would encourage everyone to go look for that episode in the queue. Today we have Perry Krug and Oded Sagie. Very, very happy to have them here joining us today. Perry, could you give us a quick introduction to yourself and to your role at Pinecone?
Hey, good morning, James. Thank you so much for having me here. So yeah, my name is Perry Krug. I run the field engineering teams here at Pinecone. That's everything from technical support, customer success, and our pre-sales engineering team. Pinecone is one of the leading vector databases, and we focus on bringing trusted knowledge for organizations into their AI and search applications.
Awesome. And Oded, thank you for joining us as well in this group discussion. Tell us about yourself and your company, Aquant.
Great to be here, James, and really thanks for having me. And hi, Perry. I'm Oded. I'm leading the product and R&D teams in Aquant. Aquant is focused on building AI for companies who service complex equipment. Our users are mainly the technicians and the contact center agents. They're a service team that's working under real constraints. They have zero tolerance for tools that slow them down. So this is really the challenge we're trying to solve. And together with Pinecone and Microsoft, we're really happy to share my thoughts here today.
So Oded, you initially built your own database infrastructure before partnering with Pinecone. Walk us through the journey. What were the primary triggers that made you decide to shift from building your own to working with someone like someone with Pinecone?
So there's no short answer to that, but let me share a little bit of context first. Aquant has been building AI vertical products for the service field in the NLP space for years. We didn't start using embeddings and vector representations because they suddenly became popular. They were simply part of how we solved search problems long before vectors were a product category on its own. And even though vectors were never the product for us, like a lot of teams, we started by building our own vector infrastructure. Now, early on, building made sense. This was even before the AI coding tools that everyone are using today, which is a bit of a paradox when you think about it. But, ambitious startup teams like ours often took the infrastructure challenges, outside their core domain. And we thought it was simple. We wanted control. We wanted speed. And we thought, if we build it, we own our own destiny. For a while, it really worked. But over time, Aquant evolved, which is good. And we shifted from vertical AI to the, product that focuses on as a builder platform. So the usage grew and the use cases evolved and the nature of our problems changed. Search became one of the central pillars in the broader system. That includes agents, workflows, governance within the service domain. Now, as it became more and more central and visible, it started to demand more and more attention, fine-tuning, latency spikes that we have, performance issues, cost. We couldn't predict the cost and the reliability across our customers. So we really reached the point where I was surprised the amount of software and data engineering involved in keeping that infrastructure healthy. And this was instead of pushing our platform forward. Now that was the trigger. Vector infrastructure was no longer about the control and speed. It had become an operational overhead to me, and it was pulling focus away from what actually differentiates Aquant. And at that point in time, we met Pinecone. I think partnering with Pinecone made sense for us. It basically let us treat the vector search as a solid, reliable infrastructure so we could stay focused on building the intelligence and workflows that matter for our customers.
So what I heard, Oded, is that working with Pinecone has really helped you focus on your customers. You mentioned that they have low tolerance for delays. Your customers are very much focused on driving value in their industries. Just for context, for the audience, talk to us about the customers that you serve and the use cases that they're focused on.
So Aquant is working with companies that build and service complex equipment. It can be medical devices, it can be industrial machinery, commercial printing. And in those environments, the downtime is expensive, and the technician or the experts, the expertise is everything. When you think about medical devices, you cannot afford downtime. It can cascade into, life-threatening events. So these are the situations that we're facing. These are the use cases for our customers.
And the SLAs in those industry are probably pretty strict with penalties for not meeting those SLAs by your customers. So that really amplifies the need for you to really provide a responsive, resilient solution to your customers.
Correct. I always say that we're focusing on building systems that are boringly reliable. This is what we need to do.
Love it. Love it. So Perry, that may not be a good marketing tagline for your company, boringly reliable.
Boringly stable. I like it.
Let's talk about what makes Pinecone unique, right? And why that positions you to really be a great partner for someone like Aquant and Oded.
Yeah. Thanks, James. And Oded, thank you for all the wonderful things you said. Look, I think we can talk about it from a couple different angles, right? The creators of Pinecone, Edo Liberty, were some of the pioneers in vector search from places like AWS and Yahoo and Splunk from a really deep research algorithmic perspective. So I think that's what sets Pinecone apart in terms of the core technology underpinning everything. But then just as equally important is matching that with the platform, the systems that we put together. There's a reason why Pinecone is not an open source tool. It's not just a single binary that you download and clone a repo and run yourself, right? It's a whole platform, a full stack SaaS application that has load balancers and routers and separately scalable read paths and write paths and storage and all this stuff. And our core competency is delivering the vector database as a service. And a lot of the things Oded said he and Aquant want to focus on their core competencies, right? The things that make them provide value to their customers. And for the beginning, there was a period of time where that meant building the full stack application. And then as they and many of our customers have discovered an important separation between what do you as an organization focus on for your core competencies and what do you let your partners deliver to you for their core competencies, right? Pinecone doesn't build everything from scratch from the ground up. We rely on lots of cloud services. We rely on other technologies. Our core competency is delivering a vector database at scale for organizations like Aquant that need to rely on it and remove the friction of managing it, deploying it, scaling it, learning it, tuning it, all of those things that we provide as the service.
So let's build off of that a little bit, Perry and Oded. So your build versus buy. Okay. We've talked about the hidden costs of building and maintaining for other enterprises that are considering vector search. Can you walk us through that buy decision and the broader discussion of build versus buy in this space in general?
Yeah, maybe I'll take a first step at it. Sorry, Oded, to jump in. Look, I think it comes down to, for the majority of our customers who are relying on Pinecone, it comes down to what kind of level of service do they need? Where do they want to spend their efforts? And where can they get the most leverage from? I heard a kind of an interesting metaphor analogy to this. If you're at home cooking some food, it's okay if it's decent, right? You can put together some ingredients. They don't need to be the best ingredients. You're going to feed yourself. You're going to feed your family. Of course, you take pride in what you put together. But it's a very different proposition than when you go to a restaurant, right? And you expect that restaurant to provide a certain quality of ingredients, a certain quality of service, a certain nutritional value, and you are not expected to do that at home. So when it comes to, let's bring it all the way back, when it comes to search and vector database, right? If you just need a little dish at home, you can pick something off the shelf and you can build it yourself, right? You can grab some of the open source libraries, you can hook it together, and that will serve your needs for the period of time when your needs are served by that level of quality and service. But when it turns out that you need restaurant quality, when you need something that you're going to build your business around and deliver to your customers. And I think it makes a clear argument for something that you buy and pay someone else to focus on their core competencies of.
So for you, Oded, can I infer that you prefer the boringly reliable restaurants, if we go with that analogy?
It took me time to get there. It took me a lot of bad building decisions and bad buying decisions to get into a very important lesson, which I think most teams, the framing the build versus buy as a technical capability question. Can we build this? Do we have the skills? Is it cheaper? And I'm an engineer at the core, so I was there in this situation, and I think that's the wrong framing. I think the real question company needs to ask themselves is, what do you actually want to own when you think about the long term? And I explain. When you build, you're not just building software. You're signing up to own the uptime, the security, the fine-tuning, the compliance, the evaluations, everything, the knowledge transfer between your team. And all of that comes with what I call internally like the silent tax of building, right? No one talks about it. It suddenly, it doesn't show up on day one, but it suddenly compounds quietly over time. Now, I've been in a lot of situations where I got stuck in the POC mode. Demo works perfect. Everyone's excited. Leadership giving you the blessing. And, 6 months later, nothing is actually running in production. And then buying or blending solutions changes that dynamic, in my opinion. It lets you focus your energy on where you create the real value. And by the way, we have the same situation with our own customers. We always say, yes, you can build it yourself, but then you lose the scale to scale fast. You don't learn as fast as possible. I think, just to summarize that, companies like Pinecone, which spent years doing one thing really well, building reliable vector database infrastructure, if we had tried to match that, we simply wouldn't be where we are today.
So the build versus buy decision is almost like having that conversation of, do we have children, right? If you have the children, you need to feed them and nurture them and take care of them for 20 years, right? So if you build a stack, you're going to have to feed and nurture that stack for the period of time that you're servicing your customers. So what I heard from you, Oded, is really the build decision is, do I want to maintain those core systems that are not part of my value prop to my customer segment?
And always try to tie it to the ROI that this generates at the end of the day.
Perry, so getting back to Pinecone, if we do a little bit of a technical deep dive into the Pinecone stack, can you walk us through the key architectural features of Pinecone, the adaptive indexing architecture, et cetera, that would make it interesting to someone like Aquant and other peers in the industry?
Yeah, so I'll try to not get too down in the weeds here, but I think it's important to maybe look back over the last few years. Pinecone started actually before the generative AI explosion, and has since been through at least 4 kind of major revisions of our platform. And that was really rooted in the experience that we had observing customer workloads and the needs and the values that they had. We started with a very stateful kind of node-based system. We evolved that one revision, and then we entered into what we launched a couple of years ago of our serverless platform, which built on the backbone of that, but really the learnings that we had was the need for separation of compute and storage, right? If you remember the Snowflake model from a decade ago, the best way to build in a cloud is to separate where your data lives and where you're processing it, rather than keep those tightly coupled together. And so that was a pretty big innovation and revolution for Pinecone, moving away from this stateful and very coupled architecture to a serverless one, which allowed us not only to scale much more, but allowed us to provide a much smoother experience for our end users. No more was the need to worry about capacity planning up front, right? You don't have to choose how much you need before you get started. And also you can pay for what you use. So rather than paying for hardware that's running by the hour, you're only going to pay for the reads and the writes and the storage that you do within Pinecone. So for certain workloads, especially those that are very multi-tenant or have peaks and valleys, it creates a much smoother and much more aligned kind of unit economics for our customers with how they leverage the database. And I'd say the most recent kind of innovation is a further kind of advancement of that serverless architecture, where now we're realizing over the last few years that there've been this range of workloads for vector storage. There are some applications that have a large volume of data into the hundreds of millions or even billions of records. And they have relatively low throughput, low access patterns to it. They need somewhere they can store the data and they can run these searches over, but it needs to be cost effective at that level. Then you have organizations and workloads that are highly multi-tenant, such as Aquant, right? Dealing with tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands, millions of individual customers where you need to keep the data isolated. You need to deal with the sizing characteristics of each workload, where one customer, your top tier customers might be 10% of your workload and your long tail the other 90%. If you're constantly having to right size for your customers that grow and change and deal with the unit economics of a small customer versus a large one, it becomes quite challenging in a platform that doesn't support that native multi-tenancy. And then the third that we're seeing are these very high throughput, very low latency applications. Sometimes that's to a small amount of data, sometimes that's to a pretty large amount of data. And so you actually need to kind of dedicate hardware and read capacity so that you can serve those workloads without those workloads at a good latency and throughput profile, but also without the sacrifice of all the neighbors in the system. And we're actually, exploring this with Aquant right now on offering some low latency, high throughput vector storage at a cost point that is appropriate, but it's these three different workloads that really have different architectural constraints to them. And only by delivering the platform that Pinecone has can we offer the simple kind of tunability between these different workloads while being able to serve all of them. If organizations were to, and some do, were to go about building this themselves, you're going to end up choosing different vendors for each workload. You're going to end up choosing different algorithms and indexing strategies. Better let us, the experts in that, do it for you, and then give you a platform that can scale with your needs and requirements.
Yeah, so this looks like it gives you a lot of flexibility, Oded.
Yeah, I think, and I don't want to repeat, but what matters us the most wasn't a single feature. Like Perry mentioned, an umbrella of capabilities. It was how the system behaves over time. And we needed, and still needing, a predictable performance and the strong tenant isolation. We need the ability to scale without constantly tuning the indexes or firefighting latency issues. So features just like Perry mentioned were so very important for us. It just eliminated an entire classes of like operational issues that we have. Just like Perry was mentioning, on the deployment side, we have the flexibility to switch between on-demand versus dedicated read capacity scaled to our different workloads. This is what we're expecting when we partner with such platform. But if I need to summarize that, I don't know if you know that Homer Simpson fading into a bush meme, but we wanted a vector search that fades into the background of everything that we do, and Pinecone just fits right on. And when that happened, the teams could focus on anything else that we've been working on.
Yeah, I think that's a great summary, Oded. And one of my, I've been in the database industry for a long time now. One of my main kind of signs of value is when the database just gets out of your way. Right. You want a database your developers can use, whether it's one you host yourself or a platform like Pinecone, but it's just got to get out of your way. So I'd love to be the Homer Simpson fading into the background for you.
That image is going to be in my mind for the rest of the day. So Perry, let's spend a few minutes talking about the Microsoft Azure angle to this. What are the common integration points that you see when deploying a vector search infrastructure, and how does Pinecone really simplify this on Azure?
Yep, great question. Microsoft and Azure are great partners of ours. We have joint customers like Aquant and others that are deploying Pinecone on top of Azure. Some of this is the general capabilities of Pinecone to simplify access and simplify connectivity and the scaling and all of that. Remove that from the constraints that you're going to have to deal with on any platform like Azure. But more specifically, our partnership with Microsoft, we are nice and tightly integrated into the Azure control plane, so you can see and manage your Pinecone usage from there. We're part of what they call their Lifter program, which helps give us access to resources within Microsoft. It's definitely something that we see a lot of value in, and obviously in delivering that to organizations like Aquant.
For folks that are considering vector search and AI-driven insight platforms, what lessons would you share to those organizations that are just now starting down this path, right? As they look at an Azure plus Pinecone stack. Any thoughts, any lessons learned, geez, I wish I knew that when I started moments?
I think I can share a few lessons, and these lessons are from the partnership with Pinecone and the partnership with Microsoft that evolved over the years. I think what I came to realize is governance can be a very important item. Like once the AI become part of how work actually gets done, governance can be afterthought. We need clarity on data access, on the data boundaries, accountability on it from day one. And it's not because I want to slow things down. It's because trust, especially on B2B, when we sell to enterprises, trust is what allows our product, the AI, to scale. And I think what completes that is the cost control on the other hand. We know how AI costs can easily be underestimated early on, and then the usage grows faster as you get more and more usage. So, and like infrastructure's decisions that you get on the beginning can quietly turn into the long-term commitments. I think you should be very deliberate about where you build, about where you buy, and when to blend, because it will make a huge difference over time. The other third element I want to mention is about the talent, is about our teams. We're putting a lot of pressure on our team. Normally, it's on the startup ecosystem, it's a very small group of people where we have some critical knowledge lives in few heads, and then sometimes the progress becomes really fragile. Personally, we learned it the hard way that we want system that reduces the dependency on our hero engineers instead of amplifying it, which can lead into, buying more reliable infrastructure. And I think that maturity is also part of that. Team that thinks about AI not like a one-time project, but rather a living system. The maturity itself let them plan for iterations. They know they're going to fail. They monitoring, they accepting changes all the time. And this is part of the relationship with Pinecone. We try and experiment. We design partner elements. We neglect stuff, implement others. So this is the reality. And this is what I call the operational maturity. Just to summarize that, for us, the Azure and the Pinecone stack together supporting our mindset. It gave us, up until now, a very solid foundation we could trust, and the team could actually focus on building the product that will drive adoption to Aquant. So if I need to summarize that, I think our AI will create value when it will be boringly reliable, calling that out again. But what I really mean is when people stop thinking about the technology and just trust it and use it on the day-to-day, this means that it's reliable.
Hey, Perry, I think he put me in your company as boringly reliable, Azure and Pinecone.
Yep, happy to be here.
Yeah. So, Perry, over to you. Thoughts, recommendations to those that are really starting down this journey.
Yeah, no, I mean, plus one to everything that Oded said as well, and I won't repeat it. I think from our perspective, we see a lot of the two sides of AI. We see a lot of experimentation, a lot of playing around, and that has to happen, and that's valuable. But that really needs to be kept in a box of experimentation, right? And when it comes time to put something into production, when it comes time to deliver something, either like Aquant does to their customers, or to many organizations internally, there needs to be a focus on the business value and the ROI. As Oded said, there's such a potential for high costs within AI, that you can spend a lot of time, a lot of human resources, a lot of money to the providers. If it's not delivering value that you can kind of tangibly quantify, you really need to be focused on limiting that. And so, yes, it's a very fast moving space. Yes, there's new models and new capabilities all the time. And so part of it is staying up to date with that and understanding where can we apply some new thinking. But if you are delivering this massive internal application that's going to cost huge amounts of dollars in tokens, and you're going to put a bunch of storage into Pinecone, and you're going to have tens of people resourcing that, and it's not delivering value, then you shouldn't let it get to that point. And I don't see AI as all of that different in the web application development space. We've been building applications for multiple decades now. New tool, it is another set of capabilities, but all the same challenges of building a system, making it reliable, investing in it, and delivering ROI have not changed.
Awesome. So, gentlemen, I think that is an excellent way to end the conversation. I would like to encourage our audience to go back and listen to their prior episode of Pinecone, where we talk with Ash Ashutosh, CEO of Pinecone. Some really great commentary there from Ash. And today, a huge thank you to Perry and to Oded, doing awesome things on the Azure stack and providing tremendous value to customers, even if we may classify it as boringly reliable and Homer Simpson hiding in the bushes. So, Oded, thank you so much for your time. Perry, appreciate your time as well. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
James.
James.
Thank you, Oded.